Young people, for no fault of theirs, have never received a quality education. The early education is of such an abysmal quality that people have no hope of breaking the cycle of poverty that they were born in.
Deepak Chopra is a visionary entrepreneur and philanthropist, a chemical engineering graduate from IIT Delhi. He owned multiple ventures, including the unicorn Qnol. His entrepreneurial success is mirrored in the operational precision of Freedom Employability Academy, FEA, which he found to break the cycle of poverty through employability training.
As a teenager, listening to adult conversations in my house between my father and his friend, I came to the conclusion that life should be designed and built around service. I think the world's greatest university is not Oxford or Cambridge or whatever, it's YouTube. 80% of the residents of Bihar survive on less than $1.10 a day.
Could you just talk about an FEA course? Why is English and then digital literacy? Why did we pick that? Deepak Chopra is a visionary entrepreneur and philanthropist who has leveraged his business acumen to transform the lives of India's undeserved youth. FEA, now one of India's largest individually funded charities, operates over 1,300 centers across North India, serves more than 78,000 students annually. The Academy offers free, year-long courses in English, digital literacy, and ethics. Backed by Stanford's research, FEA program boosts graduates' lifetime earnings by 53 lakh rupees, approximately $70,000 US, a remarkable return on investment for every $250 spent per student. Before we get into the specifics of FEA, I wanted to understand, what does FEA's goal of alleviating poverty mean? How is it measured? How is poverty measured in your standards? And how is alleviating somebody out of that? What does that mean for you?
Quite simply, it would be moving people from low income to middle income. The world changes, countries change when the bulk of its citizens are middle income. If you look at the Western world, developed countries, the majority of people are in the middle class. The super rich are always going to be tiny numbers, and they're not going to impact massively the world around them. But really is the middle class. And so I think moving people from low income to middle class is key.
And that's how you would say the measurement of alleviating the 5 million goal that FEA has, which will come.
The 5 million goal is to move 5 million people from low income to middle class.
Right. In terms of poverty, like one of the things that I used to think growing up, that poverty is a zero-sum game, meaning that there is always going to be people poor, but I think that has changed for me after working with FEA. What are your thoughts on it being a zero-sum or non-zero-sum? Everybody can uplift together.
I don't view it as a zero-sum game at all. I think there is enough prosperity in the world to go around. There's enough resources in the world for everyone to lead a comfortable, dignified life. The key issue and the number one thing that's lacking in the North Indian context, because I'm limited to that area of operation, is simply quality education. Mm-hmm. Young people, for no fault of theirs, have never received a quality education at the primary level and at the secondary level. I'm not even talking about college level, and that's not important. But the early education is just of such an abysmal quality that people have no hope of breaking the cycle of poverty that they were born in. Mm-hmm. So it all boils down to the quality of early education.
As I gain more understanding of India's development so we have been over 75 years of freedom. That has been one thing that has not changed, is the really lack of education for the masses.
That's right. Unfortunately, that is true. This has been widely studied and widely discussed by economists and by academics, that perhaps a massive failure that the Indian state made was early on prioritizing higher education and heavy industry before they built the base. Mm-hmm. Somebody talked about the Meiji Revolution in Japan, which focused on educating people at the primary level. There's a statistic I saw the other day that around the time of India's independence, mm-hmm. Or somewhere in that time frame, there were more college graduates in India than in Japan. And if you look at that number, that's startling.
Yeah.
That despite that, I mean, there's no comparison between the average GDP of the two countries.
Right. And that's where I think we've been lacking, and it's now getting more and more drastic compared to even countries like Vietnam, like who were not even close to being on the global map back in 50s, 60s.
But all communist countries have always prioritized early education. So even Vietnam, the young people have a basic education.
Yeah. Talk to me more about the 5 million number. I know it came as a audacious goal for you that you set up, that
yes,
something that seemed impossible back when you started out.
That's right. So it's a random but a big number. So where it came from was that I firstly obviously needed to set myself an audacious goal so that I would shoot and aim towards it. But more importantly, I wanted to frame it as the scale of the problem. If millions and millions of people need to be pulled out of poverty and you design a program that helps 500 people, that's just the wrong thing to do. That's just the wrong emphasis. I think since the scale of the problem is so vast, we should develop solutions that are scalable and not do things that cannot be scaled. That's really important. So the 5 million target helped me clarify a bunch of things that I did not do because they could not be scaled.
So I think this is something we were talking about yesterday as well, is start small, right? That's one idea, is like start somewhere rather than that analysis paralysis of what I'm going to do maybe will help 2 people.
Yes.
That's a lot of things that the society shoots down ideas is by, it's not going to change the world. Like you start, teaching English, they will be like, this is not going to change the world. India has politics and all these issues. But then at the same time, you as an individual, I think, are setting audacious goals, which would take away my years of nights of sleep. How do you balance that? Is that because you had such a successful entrepreneurial journey, or you were confident enough that you could do it in entrepreneurial?
No, the entrepreneurial journey came along in parallel. So in fact, when I started the program, my budget for it was only $2,000 a month. It was a very tiny budget, but it was the direction I was heading in. And the goal was based on where I wanted to get to. And I frankly didn't have a clear path to it. I didn't have a clear route to it, but it's just what I wanted to do. And I thought that if I aim in that direction and stick with it, in time, good things will happen. But how they would come about was not known to me.
Right. So don't take a small enough goal if you want to.
So we talked about this yesterday. My recommendation to everybody always is not to wait till your circumstances change, till you're so-called settled and whatever else, however you define that for yourself, to do good work. You can shine where you stand. And in fact, you should.
Right.
You should shine where you stand. Now, there are 2 different ways of looking at it. One is that, you want to go on with your life and you want to do good work as you can. Or it's the objective of your life, the purpose of your life is only to do this type of foundation. So now that's not for everybody, obviously. Right. But for people that want to do it, it's the right decision for them. Yeah. But I wouldn't say it's the right decision for most people.
Right. It's not right. And it's also so hard. I think I underestimated the amount of effort it takes to uplift, to run at scale what we're running. And I think we'll come to that. Could you talk about the idea of service? I think service to others is clearly a core tenet for you in your life. And from an early age, I think your dad said personal growth isn't complete unless we serve others. And you mentioned about the COVID pandemic, the plight of the rural India where they were on foot reaching home, could be 500,000 kilometers away. Most people read this news, I think they empathized, and then they got back to their life. They had their own struggles. I'm wondering, has it always been you from a very early age who has a very, very strong empathy component? And empathy, not just feeling that, I feel bad for you, or I feel your pain, but also now I'm going to take it as my life objective to solve your pain.
Yes. So, as a teenager, listening to adult conversations in my house between my father and his friend and others, I came to the conclusion that life should be designed and built around service. So that was pretty straightforward, that, what makes life worth living is service. That's one aspect of it. Now, this is in the 70s and 80s when I was growing up, when poverty was a defining characteristic of life in Delhi. It was all around us. And we were okay because both my parents had a college education, so we were not poor. But, no matter who you are or how wealthy you are, you just have to look out your window to see a poor person. It's that commonplace in India. So you simply put two and two together, that my service would be in the area of poverty alleviation. So that was the starting point. It took a while to actually get the program started. And even after the program started, it took a long time, many, many years, to refine it to something that was actually productive.
Right.
Because, you have a desire to do something, but how to go about it is not known. What works is not known. What's effective, and all the pitfalls along the way. So there's just a lot of stuff that you have to deal with as you move along. But the goal was always clear. And that hasn't changed.
That's my first memory of you as well. I was fresh out of college, and here is Deepak, and he's like, give me feedback on the program I've been running for 20 years. And to me, it just brought in the idea that feedback is always useful. And I think for you to be asking feedback from me, who's just started out his journey, and just my first work year and first career, and you were already asking me for feedback, that kind of helped me understand how good businesses are run. You're constantly looking for feedback. And even, do you think that is what sets apart FE? And I think I had kind of a question on, like, why are we focusing on employability and versus conventional education, IITs, health sector? Like, those are all areas where...
That's right. So two separate questions I think you're asking. The first one is about feedback. We learn from everybody. There's an opportunity to grow. There's an opportunity to develop. There's an opportunity to learn from the world around you. So that's a given. That, there's no point in time when you can say that, look, I'm so successful that I don't need to learn anymore. I think that would be the wrong thing to do. But the second aspect of your question is why employability. I think everybody wants dignity more than anything else. Everybody wants to feel good that they've taken care of themselves and their families. And really, very few people actually desire a handout. Most people have the desire to stand on their own 2 feet. Now, if you set that aside, if you come back again, why would you not enable a human being to stand on their own 2 feet and to tap into their own resources instead of giving them a handout? I mean, that's a critical question.
Right.
You can free them. And in fact, freedom is my favorite word. It's called freedom employability, because the whole objective is that every human being deserves freedom. And that comes to them not from receiving a handout, that comes from them. It comes to them from being productive members of society that are standing on their own feet, that are not dependent on anyone else for anything. That's what people want. That's what the majority of people want.
And is it also that freedom, it has to be earned? You can't just hand it to them. You can't just give them a degree that go out. They have to work through the course. I think it's intense.
They have to make their share of mistakes. Freedom comes from applying yourself, from trying and doing things and falling on your face frequently. It's when you get up and dust yourself off and keep moving. Freedom is multidimensional. It's a lifelong endeavor.
Right.
But so what we try to equip people with are the basic skills that can help them succeed for the rest of their lives. So for example, if you have a growth mindset, if you have the ability to deal with stress, with uncertainty, if you're a persistent person, if you're a person that can communicate, collaborate, get along well with others, these are the skills that we build, and these are skills that will, help you
Right.
forever.
Right. I think there's layers of helping somebody, right? Like an instant help could be just get them warm food,
Yes.
right? It will last 2 hours,
That's
3
right.
hours, then they're going to get hungry again.
Yep.
The other one could be just get them into IITs, which is very hard. I think a lot of good work goes into Super 30 and these ideas.
I personally disagree with those programs because that is a zero-sum game.
Right.
What you talked about earlier.
Right.
All you're doing is helping one student get in and ejecting somebody else. That's not growing the size of the
Yeah.
pie. It's just moving the admission from one person to another. But more power to them. If people want to do it, God bless them. But my interest is in things that expand the pie.
How have you, is there certain mechanism you personally use to understand 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree effects, right? I think what we're talking about, of course, you've thought through over last 50 years. What is the 2nd degree effect of doing just helping somebody very quick and short versus, giving them the basics, and that's going to last them a whole lifetime. And
So that's what I alluded to you to at the beginning of the conversation about how countries do well when the bulk of its citizens are middle class. So if people move from poverty to middle, say when you're poor, there's not a whole lot you can be doing for the world around you. You're not going to worry about the environment. If you're a poor person, you're not going to worry about cleanliness. If you're a poor person, you're not going to necessarily even demand your rights or ask the government to provide adequate services for your children.
Right.
Because you're uneducated, you don't know what to do. But the moment you become middle class, you become aware of your rights. You know how to fight for your rights. You have the flexibility, you have the economic strength to pursue your rights. A lot changes. So developed countries become developed because they have a large middle class.
that's interesting.
And that's where we need
trying
to move
to head to.
North Indian states too. So that the average person is an educated middle class person. Then they'll demand their rights.
Right.
They'll demand from their government that they take steps to clean up the environment.
Right.
India has one of the most polluted airs in the world, and it's killing people in very large numbers on a regular basis. But that's because nobody demands change. Now, if you were a middle class person who's no longer fighting just for food, then you will ask for these things.
Yeah. And I think you have consciously also been very thoughtful of where to put an FEA, Northern Belt, because I think they speak Hindi, primarily Hindi, and the course has been developed in such a way to help those students. So at the same time, I think you have to have that balance, which I do believe comes from your entrepreneurial understanding of running businesses. You can't boil the ocean. You can't have an audacious goal of 5 million, but then go out spreading so thin that you're just,
Yeah, you're right. So there are two aspects of it. One is that if you spread yourself thinly, you won't be effective. You do need to concentrate. And the second aspect of it is that my concentration is on the poorest part of the country. So Bihar state, for example, which is a major area of operation for us, is not only the poorest state in India, it has been the poorest state in India for decades, many decades. And even till today, the current numbers are appalling. About 80% of the residents of Bihar survive on less than 100 rupees a day. That's like $1.10 a day. 80% of the population of the state. And this is, the state, by the way, is about 10% of India's population. So 10% of India's population and 80% of that 10% lives on less than 100 rupees a day. So, I mean, you can just think about the quality of life that they have. They basically don't get to eat enough calories in a day.
Right. Is service also one of the core principles, for finding fulfillment in life for a lot of people? Would you say that
I would say
it boils down to what are you doing for others?
Service, and also I think it's really important to have a purpose in life. We all would be well served to think about what is my purpose in life. And it's obviously different for different people. Somebody's purpose could be to make great music. There's nothing wrong with that. They're not necessarily focused on service, but they're focused on their art, and that's their purpose.
Right.
More power to them. But it's important, super important, to have a purpose in life, a reason to get out of bed.
Right.
And then beyond that, yes, my personal recommendation would be service, because I feel that's really important. That's really the right thing to do. And then for many people, including myself, it's also part of my spiritual development. Because if you want to grow spiritually, you could go, build a temple or a mosque or give money to a church. But my view is that if you believe in God, and if you believe God created everything, then obviously God doesn't need your money. That's the last thing God needs. The only thing that you can do for God to grow spiritually is to serve God's creation.
Right.
So I have no interest, for example, in formal religious mechanisms.
Right.
My interest is in serving God's creation.
Right. And I think probably what you're doing is more unifying. And in religion as well, a lot of the religions would only focus on them. Like, if you are part of my religion, I'll help you out, versus I don't help you out if you're not part of the religion. That is very divisive.
That's unfortunate. Yeah.
And I think the other part where I was reading some of your earlier interviews is about personal branding, and I know you personally enough to know how hard it has been for you to come on this podcast. and I think I completely understand of not being that center that I did this. This is FEA is my creation. It has to be. How do you but there is some benefit to it, right? So, okay, so we focus, I think you said that we are primarily focused on getting as many students as possible. So that's where you spend most of the resources and time, is getting more students to come to FEA. But there's some element to personal branding where if people who are not directly going to be beneficial by FEA, they know about this, they can, spread the news. How have you been personally battling it, the idea of taking a mic and standing, I made FEA and FEA is useful. I think it's not something, I think you are having more and more metrics, more and more research showing that FEA has been very beneficial to the students who are joining it.
So you're right, FEA has been beneficial for the number of students that have come into it, but the number of students that have come into FEA is tiny. It's about 500,000 compared to the potential pool out there. So I think my time and resources are best spent on improving the FA program and expanding the number of the pool. In terms of motivating others, there's a lot of people better than I that can do that. And I don't think the world needs more motivation. There's a lot of good information, good knowledge out there. But I'll tell you about me personally being very impacted by Eknath Easwaran. And I mention his name because although I've been impacted by many people, he's one of the people that has written books. So his knowledge, his wisdom is available to anybody. Because if somebody took it with them, there's no point talking about it.
Right.
But on his YouTube videos and so on, you can understand his point of view. And what I took away from him was that life should not be about pursuing profit, pleasure, power, and personal satisfactions, pleasures rather. So if you're pursuing pleasure and power and profit and things of that nature, you're beholden to them. And if you want to be free, don't worry about what the world thinks about you. Just go on and do what you want to do.
Is this also something that comes to you once you get those things? Because when you don't have money, when you don't have a good life, pleasure, you're constantly struggling, and then You don't have power over anything, your day to day. These all seem to be the answer, right? They seem to be the most lucrative thing, that if I had this. In your personal case, has it been that once you were doing, you could dissociate more from profit or money making, because you could see a path that you could make a lot more money, and then with the business ventures. Do you think that it's also that dilemma that you have to reach to realize it's not the destination?
I don't think life is only to be run on a single channel. We're smart people. We can all be doing. We can be exercising every day and going to work every day. They're not mutually exclusive.
Right.
You can be doing good work every day and
Right.
making money for yourself. Those are not mutually exclusive. But I'll tell you, the suggestion I like to make is that everybody should consider donating at least 5 to 10% of their time. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about their time. If you work 40 hours a week for your bread labor, and you give 4 hours a week to just being of service, helping the world, doing something, and it could be mentorship, it could be counseling, it could be working in a soup kitchen or whatever. I think that makes life very rich. And that's the path I would recommend, because that's a slippery slope now. That 10% may soon become 12%, may become 15%, and so on.
Right.
It will certainly make you a more efficient person. For me, that happened when I was growing my business and growing FEA simultaneously. And businesses in America, FEA is in India. It just forced me to be more efficient with my time and my resources.
Right.
So that's all for good, right? I benefit from it.
No, I think it has to do. What I've personally felt is like at the end of the day, if I'm going to bed and I feel that I did at maximum what I could have done, this is all I've been utilized. Tomorrow, I don't have to start with the backlog or that baggage of I'm not doing enough. And I think this is where, for me, meditation has been also the same thing, is the whole day centers around it. And when I go to work, I think it just makes it a force multiplier. So people ask me, how do you take out time for meditation? I'm like, this is what I don't have to take out time for it. Like, I don't have to take out time to eat food. Yes. I will do it. This has to be done. So wherein similarly, if you should not have to take out time. If serving others makes you happy, that should be default. But still, why do you think that? So others realize this, right? Like others realize that helping others is important. It's a good trait. And they see injustice. They see unfairness especially north part of India. Very few people step up. Very few people stand up for it. Not making their life's goal to solve this, but in that day-to-day activity, is it some sort of, I think there is some, I think the rule of 3 also, which states that, like, for example, it has, I think, actual cases where if somebody falls down or somebody is being a victim of crime, if there's more than 3 people, their chances of helping actually go down because everybody thinks somebody else will do it. You think helping out long term is also similar? Like somebody like Deepak would help solve the situation in the society, and we can carry on our work.
Well, obviously, I can't speak for others, but from my personal journey, I would say that people underestimate their own capabilities. If somebody's got a regular job and is raising their kid and has a family to take care of, they could get buried in that. Or they could say, well, I can do this and I can be efficient and do a lot more. I think the average person is capable of doing a lot more than they actually do. They just have to choose to do it.
Right.
They just have to be determined to do it. And they'll find ways to do it if they choose to do it. I think so. We sell ourselves short. We all have far more greater capabilities than we give ourselves credit for.
And I think for you, your main foundation has been the spirituality, right? Which is, there's an honest attempt to help. It has nothing to do with your name or you being known for creating FEA. It is essentially just at the bare minimum of helping someone else out. 5 million is a goal. I think that helps you move, and it's a long life that you have to have big enough goals.
Yes, I'll have to live long enough.
Could you just talk about an FEA course? Why is English and then digital literacy and ethics like
mindsets?
I think
the component is mindsets, including ethics.
Why did we pick that? Like why?
That's a good question. So the first part, English, is pretty obvious. In fact, when I first started out, I was triggered by a research study published by the Euromonitor that found that just by learning English and without learning anything else, people make an extra 24 or 25% income. So it's a substantial jump. The study was done in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Ivory Coast, and a couple of other places, but not in India. In India, if you talk to recruiters, they'll tell you the premium is far more than 25%. They'll bandy about numbers as high as 100% premium. So therefore, it just makes sense. Number two, digital literacy. The world is changing. I didn't have the internet available to me when I was growing up, but today it's a massive resource. I think the world's greatest university is not Oxford or Cambridge or whatever. It's YouTube. You want to open a bakery,
right.
You can find fantastic recipes on YouTube. So once we build the English language skills and we build the confidence that actually English language skills automatically bring about, then with digital literacy, you have a path to prosperity. You have a path to finding stuff for yourself. Then comes the fact that, ideas help you build, but as somebody said, that ideas help you build, but values are the guardrails. You need ethics. And then you need all the soft skills that help you, such as, the ability to communicate,
right.
Ability to deal with stress, and so on. So those skills all play an important role. One of the things I did was, many years ago, is I talked to as many people as I could that were in their 40s and their 50s and asked them what they would attribute their success to. Not one person out of maybe about 100, 150 people that I spoke with ever said that it's what I learned in school and college. Everybody talked about things like persistence and
right.
grit and, other factors.
Right.
So I've tried to incorporate as many of those ideas into the curriculum. And then the other hard part was that how do you build these things? And that was just a lot of, poking around and looking for experts in this area. So over the years, I've found as many academics and other consultants, experts that knew how to build some skills and, brought them into the program to tap into their resources and their ideas. So that's how the curriculum has evolved over time.
Could you talk about setting up, is there some similarities between setting up the business ventures you've had and FEA? Because they're both massive and FEA probably is larger just in sheer operations. I do think FEA still is a business. It's not ready to profit, but it's still a business. You have to look at efficiency. You're always trying to optimize because there is a bigger goal. It's not anything to do with profit, but it is a lot of logistics. It's a lot of manpower, a lot of real estate. What are some of the key aspects to when you look at a problem and you're trying to solve it? I'm wondering, is it getting a lot of feedback, which I think you doing a lot?
Actually, the number one factor by far, and there's nothing that comes even close to it, is people. Finding the right people. So whether it's business or FEA, building organizations, you just need super talented, super devoted people that buy into the mission, that are incentivized adequately, and just want to do good work. That's the hardest part, and that's the most important part of it. It's just people, good people.
Could you talk about how do you go about, like, for example, FEA has been not 30 years?
25 years, yeah.
Could you talk about, like, how do you find the right people? Because that's something...
You got to kiss a lot of frogs. It's as simple as that. It's just a large number. Some people have a basic instinct for it, or they're able to determine, talk to somebody, and they have a feeling about how good that person is. I unfortunately don't have that talent, so for me it's just a numbers game. I have to cycle through a lot of people to find the right person.
But I think I
like to trust everybody.
Yeah,
I kind of take people at their face value, but that's not the right decision.
But you are able to create an environment for people to help each other. So I think that
That's important to create that culture. So especially at FEA, not so much in the business part of it, because businesses have other incentives. But within FEA, the culture was key, or is key, because people work remotely. They work with very little supervision. They work in an environment where others don't work as hard. So it's important to create that culture and to communicate frequently and vitally about what we are doing, why we're doing it, and what's the expected outcome.
Because that's something I have seen with FEA is all my interactions are extremely smooth, well organized. I'm kind of jealous because Amazon, I thought, was super awesome at that, but I think FEA has to be at par with the organization.
Amazon is a different beast altogether. They're so much larger and so much more, it's just a completely different organization.
But I do feel like that lateral approach to hierarchy, like anybody can approach anybody. That's kind of, those sort of cultures, I think, do enable sustainable growth. And also, I think the people that I've met have grown through FEA. So that's something, I think 45%, that's a statistic. 45% of facilitators actually were students themselves.
Yeah, the teachers were formerly students, that's correct. But that's the mission of the organization. The mission of FEA is to help and enable people to grow. So it fits in nicely with what we're trying to do.
Could you also talk about the study that was done by Stanford, the large-scale RCT on 1,200 plus students on?
Yeah, that was an interesting study. So what they did was they, at one point in time, came in and took 600 students or 600 applicants rather, I should say, and told them that they're going to be deferred for a year. They were not allowed to enter the program. And 600 applicants that were allowed into the program. So that was, two groups of 600 students each. And then the 600 students that went through the program, it was cut short by COVID, so there's some hiccups over there. But nevertheless, they did that. And now, I was actually very curious about it myself because, employability is a long-term event. And how do you measure career success without actually waiting for 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And they had a very interesting way of doing it. They had a questionnaire that they had all 1,200 students answer, or maybe about 1,000 by the time they got to the end of the study. So the people that came into the program, people that didn't come into the program, both answered the same set of questions. Each student was videoed giving their responses. Now, these 1,000 plus videos were then shown to a panel of HR experts, and they were asked that based on these responses, how much money do you think this student would earn? And then, they did the statistical analysis and whatever else they do on that stuff to come up with that finding. So I thought it was pretty clever.
It was pretty clever, and I think, were the results very surprising for you?
No, I think it was in line with what I expected. I didn't have a hard number, so they came up with a hard number, but I knew that good things were happening because that was clear from the conversations I had with graduates and students that people were happy with what they've learned. I get lots of emails from graduates that are doing well out in the world. So I had a sense that this was happening.
Yeah, some of them join Amazon, and it's super nice to have people around from FEA. But $70,000 difference, I think, impacts not just them. I think it has a societal impact to them, like their families.
That's the hope, yes. Yeah, it should.
Why do you think rural India is the key to solve this problem? That's been the recent transition, moving from urban to rural.
So the COVID triggered that because, we saw all these migrants that had come from rural areas to the cities being forced back to their villages. And it was, we saw the terrible things that they endured. So I don't have to repeat that. But if you think about it, it's a fairly simple situation. There are no opportunities, economic development opportunities in rural areas. The farm holdings become smaller and smaller. And unless you've inherited a fair amount of land, and if you're just a landless labor, your life is pretty brutal.
Right.
Now, people leave villages because there's nothing happening over there to come to the urban areas to work on construction sites and really low-end jobs. And they end up living in slums because they don't make a lot of money. So it's pretty straightforward that these people are being abused and living very bare bones existence because they have no education. If they're educated, life will change.
Right.
Now, in the Indian context, India, 65% of the GDP, I believe, is based on the service sector. About 20% or something like that is agriculture, and the balance is manufacturing. So if you look at it, the biggest 2/3 of the contribution is from the service sector. If we can prepare rural youth to be employable in the service sector, that's a pretty obvious thing to do. And that's really now the focus is to help rural youth become employable in the service sector. Now, the service sector opportunity is very large. If you think about the size of India versus the size of France, I think France gets more tourists than India does. Or at least a few years ago, that was a statistic. I don't know if it's still true or not. And globally, the number one employment opportunity in any country is tourism. So think about it. I mean, given the size of India and all that India has to offer, and yet more people or more money spent in France. So the opportunity is there. We just need to prepare the workforce for it.
And could you talk about some of the challenges that have been expanding to rural areas? For me, as a mentor, it has been the biggest challenge was talking in Hindi, pure Hindi.
That's one part of it, sure, but rural India is poorly served. It's poorly connected. The road network is still difficult. Internet connections are poor. Distances are vast. The population density is low, relatively speaking. So, if you look at Delhi, for example, there's probably tens of thousands of NGOs that work in Delhi. If you look at Lucknow city, there's probably thousands of NGOs that work in Lucknow city. You go 50 miles away from Lucknow city, the average village has no charitable presence of anybody, except maybe for a temple or a mosque. Apart from religious activities, there's nothing happening. And religious and political activities, you'll see that. But there is no economic development.
Because the distribution is really hard?
Everything is hard. There are fewer opportunities. The people are less educated. There's a startling difference between a 15-year-old educated in the village and a 15-year-old educated in Delhi. They could both be from low-income backgrounds, but there's still a massive difference. So the villages are very underserved.
And that's where I think you're feeling the most. It is a harder challenge, but
it's a more difficult
it's more rewarding.
The biggest challenge in villages is surprisingly hiring people. Because, it's not sustainable to recruit a teacher from a city and parachute them into a village, because who wants to go live in a dump? And it really is a dump because there's no garbage collection. There's no running water. Electricity is intermittent. So quality of life is not something that that a city dweller would want, would desire. So the only people that can work there sustainably are people that are living there, that are accustomed to that quality of life. Now, because they're living in the villages, they themselves are poorly educated. And so it's a challenge to find teaching staff and to train them. And our numbers are that for every 100 people that we have an initial conversation with, we end up, after training, hiring maybe one person. It's 1 out of 100. And that's a difficult number.
Yeah, so it just says we have a lot more to do.
Yeah, we have a lot to do, you're right.
And when you said that you started with $2,000 a month, and I think we talked about setting aside 5 to 10% of your time, like 5 or 10% of your time for donation, what would you say is a good enough start? Like, so when you were doing the $2,000 a month, what percentage of your...
That I don't remember because it's been 25 years, but I wouldn't worry too much about those numbers. I would say that if you give 5 or 10% of your time, the resources will show up. Because if you have pure intentions,
right,
you get things done.
Yeah, I think many people, even in our religious context, right, there's that 4 phases of life. And I think it's towards the last phase when you're supposed to be, being of service to society, which...
No, the last phase, not in the traditional Hindu, if that's what you're referring to. The last phase is about
renunciation.
Education yourself, sannyas.
Sannyas.
So that's not service. Sannyas is for yourself.
Right. So
I wouldn't say wait till then. I think get started when you're 20.
Right. So I think that's one thing definitely we could change as part of Indian culture, is like just volunteering, time, money, whatever it needs, but don't wait for you to become successful enough in whatever your goals are, 40s, 50s.
You're right.
And would you have some, I don't like to use the word, but advice for other nonprofits? Have you seen, because there's one concern which a lot of people have when they want to participate with nonprofits, is there's a lot of fluff. Fluff meaning that there is no outcome exactly being measured. And I think that's something you have done very differently at FES. You're being kind of very self-critical. You would start a program, you would invest so much, and then you would constantly be asking, is this helping? Can you help me measure it? If it's not, let's shut it down and move to something next. Have you seen that across other nonprofits? I think, would you have something to say?
So firstly, I'm not an expert on other nonprofits because I've seen very few of them. But if I was asked for a suggestion, I would say pick a cause and stick to it and make it your own. And instead of running in multiple directions, just narrow down your focus. Do fewer things, but do them better than anybody else does. And I would say don't spend a lot of time on, patting yourself on the back or beating your chest. Just do it.
Right. Coming to the last couple of questions, how can people connect with FEA? What would you say for the audience if they want to get involved? What capacities can they help in?
So if they're adults that have a few years, 2 or 3 or 4 years of work experience, we would welcome them to become a mentor. That's a commitment of about 1.5 hours a month. There is no money involved. We're not seeking donations. We're seeking time. So if an adult would take 1.5 hours to do a Zoom call once a month with a group of our students, that'd be very beneficial for both, not only for our students, but even for the mentor. I have yet to meet a mentor who says that I did not benefit from this.
Right.
Because it really is an enriching experience. But for the students, it's a really important opportunity because, again, if you think about it, our average student comes from a low-income background, which means that they're not educated, their parents are not educated, they live in neighborhoods where nobody is educated. So they don't really know an educated person who would take the time and trouble to share their life experiences with them, to guide them, and to be there for them, to listen to them.
Right.
So mentorship is the number one thing that I would ask your audience to consider doing.
And is there anything else? So after they get a little bit baked into the FEA ways of things, they can probably contribute much more, like they can help with curriculum design and they can participate in those things.
So that also would depend on their own expertise. Depends on their background and their own life experiences. But there's always things to be done. There's always opportunities for good work, for good people to do good work.
all the people that are getting retired in my family, I just tell them, let's go find a job at FEA, do some admin stuff, and you'll feel better. And I think just the last question so this podcast is called The Inner Scorecard. And I think for me personally, I feel you're a person who's completely guided by intrinsic values than external appraisal and applause. What would you say your top values are? And what would you say about just inner scorecard, like just following your inner goals and principles and keeping them, first assessing them, making sure that it makes sense, but then going after those? Because we often get bogged down by what people might say, and people have a lot to say.
Yes. I'll circle back to my favorite word again, freedom. So you talk about, people, what do they say about me or think about me? Two things. Firstly, people don't think about others because everybody's preoccupied with their own lives.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, young people do feel that others are thinking about them and maybe criticizing them and whatever. And there's a story about this actor who would go to bed every night with a recording of an applause because he needed that to put him to sleep. Yeah, that's
Right.
the opposite of freedom.
Right.
If you're not pursuing power and prestige, then you're not concerned about what the world thinks about you.
Right.
You can be truthful, you can be honest, you can make mistakes, you can be true to yourself, and you can just get on with your life.
Right.
Now, look at the flip side of this. If you're a famous person, you can't even go down to a grocery store to shop in peace. You're going to be hounded by others. So I say, enjoy your freedom. Make the most of it, and just be true to yourself.
Right. No, thank you so much, and I really appreciate you agreeing to do this. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was
Thank
a
you very
pleasure.
much.